Hi, hello, this is Ana Dominguez, your language coach, and today I'm very excited to read with you the chapter 2 from the novel, this novel. I took this picture because I found it very suitable, the picture that they have selected in these Collins Classics. You know that March means being in movement, so you are walking, you do something. At the same time, they are wearing this stick, they are carrying this stick with them, with the hats and the bags and the baskets. So they are in movement, they are going somewhere, and they are marching. So we can also understand that Louisa May Alcott in 18, I think it was 1868, if I'm not mistaken, when this book was published. And it was published into, I think, into two different books. First was the first part and then the second part. But anyway, what I'm trying to say here is that if you open the book and you start reading, you will see that everything has a symbolic meaning, we could say, because there are four girls, and the four of them also represent different elements. And you could see that, for example, Jo represents fire, and we could see that as well because she's, I think that in some moment, especially in this chapter, where they are going to be performing the theater play, because it's Christmas Day, and they are going to wake up, they are going to find a book that the mother has put under their pillow, and each of the girls receive a book. By the way, that book is called The Pilgrim's Progress. It's a very famous book from John Bunyan, and this man was an English preacher in the 16th century. So imagine, they receive in Christmas this book, and each of them receive the book with different colors on the cover. So Jo receives the red, Meg receives the green, and Beth receives the dove white colored, and the little one, Amy, received the blue one. And if you know astrology, and if you know something related with symbol colors and symbology, you know that they all represent the different elements: fire, earth, air, and water. And this is like that, it's full of that. When you are reading, that's why it's so fantastic, the reading of the book, because you find all the details, and then later filmmakers and screenplayers have used to adapt into the big screen the novel. And especially in the last movie, if you have seen the movie from 2019, you'll see also that they pay attention to these little details. So for example, Jo appears with ginger red color, the ginger hair color, which is red. And also she sometimes is ignited with fire physically, because she is close to the fireplace, and then she is burning basically. So you could see different, also Amy, that is water, and there is a moment when she drops into the frozen lake. And also you could see the dresses when they are being presented in this movie. The dresses look exactly in the same color as their books. The mom knows them, so the mother gave them these colors, these color covered books, so then we could identify the different characters. And this is what Louisa May Alcott was also trying to do, is giving us some deep, more information in a very unconscious way sometimes, but not for us, but not for her. She was picking the colors. So anyway, I just wanted to do this introduction of, words are being selected here very carefully. So be careful with that. And so to compare with the theme from scripts and movies, by the way, I have placed at the end the timeline of the movies, the most important ones, with some pictures, so then you can see the different versions in the adaptations in filmmaking adaptations. Let's continue with this reading. Well, let's start, we could say. So, well, this part is about the Christmas gift. They receive a book. I'm not going to read this part because I don't want to do it very kind of long, this video. So, but I have highlighted here crimson cover book. The crimson is red. Green cover book for, this one was for Joe. The second was for Meg, although Meg is the oldest, but Joe is the main character that, we see that everything is being moved forward thanks to her passion for literature, passion for writing, passion for art, and in the shape of words, because Amy also has a passion for art, but is painting. So we could see also that also Bev has a passion for art, but in music, so the sound, and remember it's air, so she's also the mediator, she's the peacemaker, she is like Libra that wants to balance everyone around her. And Meg is kind of very earthy, because she is the one that gets married and have kids, and she's always wishing to have more pleasures and money, but she has married a very nice man that is a teacher. So this is also being told in every movie, and obviously in the novel. So you will see that it is clear that she's representing the earth element, how she is like a goddess at home, we could say. And Amy represents this character that is still innocent, but she is full of energy, and she really wants to get commodities in life in order to express her creativity as an artist. And that's the water kind of these waters are the waters of being, I'd say, also kind of reflecting what it is, because she paints in a way that is very realistic, and you could see that also in the movie. Whereas other painters are painting kind of more impressionist, Amy, as if it were like the mirror that is sometimes, you could see it on the lakes or on the surface of any lake. You could see how it mirrors what it is around in a very, we could say, realistic way. So Amy is trying to do that as well as an artist. And that's one of the things I really like. Another element that I want you to consider is the windows has a very important meaning in the novel, but also especially for people that have been adapting this into the movie. Beautiful scene when they discover at the end, you will see at the end of this chapter 2, you will see how they approach the window to contemplate the landscape where the neighbors live. And you will see that the neighbors have sent them something that they have appreciated a lot. So I wanted to read it with me because it's written in a very fantastic way. Just to show you that what I was saying is not invented. You can find the books there, and even they say it. There is a moment where they will say it, and I have highlighted here. You can do as you please, but I shall keep my book on the table here and read a little every morning as soon as I wake, for I know it will do me good and help me through the day. And this is Bev saying that she's going to read the present that their mothers have gave them. That book, the Pilgrim's Process. That, by the way, if you haven't seen it, or there are movies related to that book, but obviously I guess that the best thing is to go to the text and read what's going on in that journey. But I have been reading it, and I have watched few movies about that book that they received in Christmas. And it's a fantastic story of a man that has to go through a pilgrimage to find the celestial city. And that's a fantastic, I think, analogy of the way of life. And it's a man, it's a male. So again, they play, as they do also in the theater, they play male characters as well as females. They have this group of of theater, and they represent different characters, and Joe usually represents the female characters. And then later, you know, that the neighbor Laurence is going to come, and he is going to be part of that group. So it's a fantastic, I guess, way of also explaining and describing how creative you could also be among your family and among your neighbors and friends. Well, in this video, what I wanted to say, basically, it starts here. I'm going to read from here. "There's mother. Hide the basket, quick," cried Joe, as a door slammed and steps sounded in the hall. Amy came in hastily and looked rather abashed. And abashed is like shy or ashamed. We could say ashamed more than see. So she looked abashed, okay? And it's like ashamed. When she saw her sisters all waiting for her. "Where have you been, and what are you hiding behind you?" asked Meg, surprised to see by her hood and cloak. Hood, remember? Hood and cloak es como una capa, y hood, acordados de Little Riding Hood, como el capuchón, ¿no? That lazy Amy had been out so early. "Don't laugh at me, Joe. I didn't mean anyone should know till the time came. I only mean to change a little bottle for a big one, and I gave all my money to get it, and I'm truly trying not to be selfish anymore." As she spoke, Amy showed the handsome flask. Flask is like a bottle, which replaced the cheap one, and looked so earnest and humble in her little effort to forget herself that Meg hugged her on the spot. And Joe pronounced her a tramp, while Beth ran to the window and picked her finest rose to ornament the stately bottle. You see, I felt ashamed of my present after reading and talking about being good this morning, so I ran round the corner and changed it the minute I was up. And I'm so glad, for mine is the handsomest now. Another bang of the street door sent the basket under the sofa, and the girls to the table, eager for breakfast. Remember, this is Christmas Day, and they woke up, and they are going to have like a kind of a feast. They know that there is going to be an important moment. "Merry Christmas, Mommy," many of them. "Thank you for our books. We read some and mean to every day. We read some and mean to every day." They all cried in chorus to their mother. "Merry Christmas, little daughters. I'm glad you began at once and hope you will keep on. You will keep on reading. But I want to say one word before we sit down. Not far away from here lies a poor woman with a little newborn baby. 6 children are huddled into one bed. Huddled es como abrazados into one bed, to keep from freezing, que están ahí juntos, ¿no? To keep from freezing, for they have no fire. There is nothing to eat over there, and the oldest boy came to tell me they were suffering hunger and cold. My girls, will you give them your breakfast at a Christmas present? They were all unusually hungry, having waited nearly an hour, and for a minute no one spoke. Only a minute, for Joe explained impetuously, "I'm so glad you came before we began. May I go and help carry the things to the poor little children?" asked Beth eagerly. I shall take the cream and the muffins, added Amy, heroically giving up the article she most liked. Meg was already covering the buckwheat. Buckwheat is like the oats, you know, that you mix with milk and you do like kind of a porridge, and piling the bread into one big plate. I thought you'd do it, said Miss March, smiling as if satisfied. You shall all go and help me, and when we come back, we will have bread and milk for breakfast and make it up at dinner time. They were soon ready, and the procession sent out. Fortunately, it was early, and they went through back streets, so few people saw them, and no one laughed at the queer party. As you can see, this theme from 1994 has been developed longer and in more detail about the march that they do from their house to their neighbor's house to give them that breakfast. So that's why I wanted to show you the different adaptation and how it's being written and then performed in the movie. It's kind of also different. Because one thing is what we read from the script, and another also final thing is what you will see actually on the screen. So there are different filters from the novel to the script to the film already produced and given. And by the way, the activity about theater is about enjoying the process. It's not about being the best actor in the world or the best actress in the world. This is not what we are aiming. We are aiming to learn English through this process and enjoy the presence of our friends and co-workers, people that will accompany to each other. We accompany to each other to do something together that is creative. That's the idea. So if you really are interested in this activity, please contact me. On the 2nd of September, we will be presenting the program, but during July and August, I'm doing the casting, and the casting is as I explained, reading a scene with me from the script. So let's continue with this. Okay, so they were soon ready and the procession set out. Fortunately, it was early and they went through back streets, so few people saw them and no one laughed at the queer party. And when they say, look at this detail, few people saw them. We will find out later who saw them. A poor, bare, miserable room it was with the broken windows, no fire, ragged bedclothes. Ragged is like broken, in bad conditions, like with holes and, ragged is like broken. Ragged bedclothes, a sick mother, wailing baby, crying baby, and a group of pale, hungry children cuddled under one old kilt. Kilt is like a blanket, different from a blanket, that's kind of, and cuddles que estaban abrazados under one old kilt, trying to keep warm. Warm, that's another difficult word for us to pronounce. How the big eyes stared and the blue lips smiled as the girls went in. Ach, May, aber, ach, I think this is ach, mein Gott. I think I said it right because I've been checking. I don't know German at all. So, but this is kind of ach, yes, ach, mein Gott. It is good, and angels come to us, said the poor woman, crying for joy. Funny angels in hoods and mittens. Mittens, by the way, are the globes that has no fingers. They have no separated fingers, only the thumb. Okay, so mittens is that. Hoods, I have already explained. Said Joe, and set them to laughing. In a few minutes, it really did seem as if kind spirits had been at work there. Hannah, who had carried wood, made a fire and stopped up the broken panes. And the panes are, the broken panes are the windows. Again, this is a very interesting, scene where Hannah is closing the broken, it's fixing some with old hats and her own cloak. By the way, cloak the cloak is the la capa. Okay, so this kind of sí, es una capa, vale, the cloak. Miss March gave the mother tea and gruel, and gruel is the thing that you mix when, you know, the cereal that you mix with some milk and then you eat it. It's like a kind of a porridge. And comforted her with promises of help, while she dressed the little baby as tenderly as if it had been her own. The girls, meantime, spread the table, okay, put everything on the table, spread the table, set the children round the fire, no, because they have lighted the fire already, and fed them like so many hungry birds, laughing, talking, and trying to understand the funny, broken English. And then they say this, das ist gut, die Enkelkinder, cried the poor things as they ate and warmed their purple hands at the comfortable blaze. Comfortable, again, this is one of the difficult words for us, and blaze is the fire, okay, we could say. So yes, the flame of the fire. And you can imagine that they are kind of, you know, very happy with them. The girls had never been called angel, so the boys were calling them angels, and this is interesting because they made a reference, a cultural reference again of our culture by saying Sancho, and I will explain that. The girls had never been called angel children before, and though it very agreeable, especially Jo, who had been considered a Sancho ever since she was born. I'm going to explain this meaning of Sancho here. In English, Sancho means a person that has, you know, kind of, is kind of not very lazy, or kind of it lacks some kind of moral, you know. So that's the Sancho reference that they are doing here. Obviously, Sancho, I guess, is the Sancho Panza, you know, kind of Sancho. I think is from our own culture, that reference. But anyway, that just for you to know that the Sancho in here means someone that has not particular, is not particularly known for we could say his or her virtues, we could say. That was a very happy breakfast, though they didn't get any of it. And when they went away, leaving comfort behind, I think there were not in all the city for merrier people than the hungry little girls who gave away their breakfast and contented themselves with bread and milk on Christmas morning. And remember, this is Merry Christmas, is how she has named this second chapter, and she is saying here merrier people. So I think there were not in all the city 4 merrier people than the hungry little girls who gave away their breakfast and contented themselves with bread and milk on Christmas morning. That's loving our neighbor better than ourselves, and I like it, said Meg. And remember, Meg is the oldest sister, as they set out their presents while their mother was upstairs collecting clothes for the poor Hamels. Not a very splendid show, but there was a great deal of love done up in the few little bundles. Bundles are the things that you pack and put together to give it up to someone. And the tall vase or vase, depending on the UK or US accent. So US is vase and UK is vase, of red roses. And the tall vase or vase of red roses with chrysanthemums and trailing vines, which stood in the middle, gave quite an elegant air to the table. She's coming. Strike up, Beth. Open the door, Amy. 3 cheers for Marmee, cried Jo, prancing about, while Meg went to conduct Mother to the seat of honor. Beth played her gayest in this moment is the merriest, the the happiest march. And see, Beth played her gayest march. Again, this is a word, you know, kind of walking. Amy threw open the door and Meg enacted escort with great dignity. Miss March was both surprised and touched, and smiled touched. Remember, don't confuse touched with taught. Taught, enseñó, enseñé o enseñaste, so it's the past of teach, taught. Taught como el dios griego, y touch es tocar, en el pasado sería touched, porque el ed suena como una T, ¿vale? Yo lo he explicado otras veces, pero lo vuelvo a decir porque creo que en la otra, el otro día no sé si lo dije bien o me confundí. Much was both surprised and touched, and smiled with her eyes full as she examined her presents and read the little notes which accompanied them. The sleepers went on at once. So they gave her a slipper, ¿no? Una zapatilla de estar por casa. A new handkerchief was split into her pockets, ¿vale? Entonces un pañuelo, handkerchief, y el que ha estado bordando antes Beth, ¿verdad? Y lo han explicado antes porque no he leído esa parte, pero aparece. Well scented with Amy's cologne, y con la colonia de Amy, they scented the handkerchief. The rose was fastened, se colocó, ¿no? Se fastened in her bosom, and bosom is the chest, ¿vale? In her bosom. And the nice globes were pronounced as perfect feet. So now is the moment of the mother receiving the gifts from her 4 daughters. There was a good deal of laughing and kissing and explaining in the simple, loving fashion which makes this home festival so pleasant at the time, so sweet to remember long afterward, and then all fell to work. The morning charities and ceremonies took so much time that the rest of the day was devoted to preparations for the evening festivities. Now, I'm going to skip the part of the theater in the video, but you have it here in this document. And by the way, I would probably talk about this in another video, I mean, because it's a fantastic theater play, and it says a lot about being an amateur company. And I just changed the color, so it's blue in the document, so then you can see perfectly where I continue now from here. The excitement, so they have performed a theater to the neighbors and more people around, boys and girls, small boys and girls, in their attic, and now they are, I continue reading from here. When they finished, the excitement had hardly subsided when Hannah appeared with Miss March's compliments and would the ladies walk down to supper? This was a surprise even to the actors, and when they saw the table, they looked at one another in rapturous amazement. It was like Marmee to get up a little treat for them, but anything so fine as this was unheard of since the departed days of plenty. Remember, the departed days of plenty. This family are living in this moment of the Civil War, and we could say they become less wealthy during this period. So this is interesting line to understand what's happening in March's family. There was ice cream, well, in March's family and in many other families there in the United States in those times. There was ice cream, actually 2 dishes of it, pink and white, and cake and fruits, and distracting French bonbons, and in the middle of the table, 4 great bouquets of hot house flowers. It quite took their breath away, and they stared first at the table and then at their mother, who looked as if she enjoyed it immensely. Is it fairies? asked Amy. Santa Claus, said Beth. Mother did it, and Meg smiled her sweetest in spite of her gray beard and white eyebrows. Remember that she has been performing a theater play before. Aunt March had a good feed and sent the supper, cried Joe, with a sudden inspiration. All grown, old Mr. Laurence, all grown, old Mr. Laurence sent it, replied Miss March. So the neighbors. The Laurence boy's grandfather, what in the world? What in the world put such thing into his head? We don't know him, exclaimed Meg. Hannah told one of his servants about your breakfast party. He is an old gentleman, but that pleased him. He knew my father years ago, and well, actually, you can see in the novel that the man didn't see them. It was Hannah, the servant, who talked and said about what they did. So he was pleased with that gesture, and he did something nice to them. He knew my father years ago, and he sent me a polite note this afternoon saying he hoped I would allow him to express his friendly feeling toward my children by sending them a few trifles. Trifles is like something sweet in honor of the day. I could not refuse, and so you have a little feast, Festino, at night to make up for the bread and milk breakfast. ¿No? To make up es para compensar, ¿no? To make up es para compensar lo que pasó esta mañana, ¿no? The boy put it into his head. I know he did. He's a capital fellow, and I wish we could get acquainted. He looks as if he'd look to know us better. No, perdona. He looks as if he'd like to know us, but he is bashful, and bashful is like shy, and yes, shy. And Meg is so prim, she won't let me speak to him when we pass, said Joe. As the plates went round and the ice began to melt out of sight with ohs and ahs of satisfaction. You mean the people who live in the big house next door, don't you? Asked one of the girls. My mother knows old Mr. Laurence, but says he's very proud and doesn't like to mix with his neighbors. He keeps his grandson shut up when he isn't riding or walking with his tutor and makes him study very hard. We invited him to our party, but he didn't come. Mother says he's very nice, though he never speaks to us girls. Our cat ran away once and he brought her back, and we talked over the fence and were getting on capitally all about cricket and so on when he saw Meg coming and walked off. I mean to know him some day, for he needs fun. I'm sure he does, said Joe decidedly. I like his manners and he looks like a little gentleman, so I have no objections to your knowing him if a proper opportunity comes. He brought the flowers himself, and I should have asked him in if I had been sure what was going on upstairs. He looked so wistful. Wistful is kind of sad, kind of, yeah, like melancholic. As he went away, hearing the frolic is the joy and the merry situation, the happy moment, the frolic, and evidently having none of his own. So frolic is like the fun as well. It's a mercy you didn't matter, laughed Joe, looking at her boots. But we'll have another play sometime that he can see. Perhaps he'll help act. Wouldn't that be jolly? Wouldn't that be jolly? Como no sería divertido? I never had such a fine bouquet before. How pretty it is, and Meg examined her flowers with great interest. They are lovely, but Beth's roses are sweeter to me, said Miss March, smelling the half-dead posy in her belt. Remember that they gave her like a little bouquet, so that posy could also be like a little bouquet that Meg, the Beth did for her. Beth nestled up, es como la abraza, ¿no? Nestled up to her and whispered softly, I wish I could send my buns to father. I'm afraid he isn't having such a Merry Christmas as we are. So now Beth is thinking about his father, her father, and their father, obviously, that is in the Civil War. And that's why the mother also didn't want them to have like a very kind of pompous Christmas day. Or at least that's what is being said as well in the at the beginning of some certain movies. And the atmosphere is like, okay, let's do some sacrifice ourselves too, because there are people living very dangerous and also hard times in this moment. Okay, so that's nice, isn't it? And I placed here the timeline with the four most known movies adaptations in 1933, 1949, 1994, and 2019. And I've watched all of them, and then I have placed also this one, the little John Bagent, The Pilgrim's Progress, just for you to know, just in case you want to do further research on the topic. And that's it. I highly recommend you to see the difference between each adaptation before we do our own adaptation. So I finished for today. I hope you enjoyed, and let's keep reading, okay? If you want to know more, please go to my website or subscribe and comment something below, okay? Bye-bye for today.